you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est Canadiens qui vont faire le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked the young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Thursday, December 14. How is everyone doing tonight? I hope you're all doing well. We have a good one lined up. We always do, I think, but I have to tell you, I'm starting to like more and more when we have these three-person panels, right? And we had it the other night, of course, with myself and Grant McCagg and Simon Userpent Boisvert, and we're going to have it again tonight, of course, and we're going to have it with two gentlemen that I have a chance to do some work with because they're both employed by TVA Sport. We're going to get to them in just a minute. It's going to be Marc-Andre Perreault and Nicolas Cloutier. But first and foremost, of course, the Sick Podcast, brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. And I have to tell you something. There's something I really love about Energy. There's a lot of things I love about Energy Transportation Group. I love Mike Cinquino. I love Sean Girard. I love David Grassi. I love their staff. I love their service. I love their company. I love the fact that they're such huge sports fans, and I love the fact that they encourage amateur sports as well. The Winterfest 2023 of the LaSalle Soccer Association will take place on this Saturday, December 16th in the morning in the Châteauguay Soccer Complex in partnership with the Patrice Bernier Foundation, the Goal Initiatives Foundation, Aleto Sport, and yes, Energy Transportation Group. And you can come watch some of the soccer stars of yesterday and even some of today. There's going to be an all-star game that's going to take place at noon on Saturday in support of women's soccer and in support of, our women athletes actually staying active and being able to do something. And all you have to do to contribute is buy tickets at $10. And there's also going to be a raffle that's going to take place with a chance to win some real big prizes, one of which is going to be a 58-inch television. And of course, this is in support of the group of girls and athletes that's being directed by the great Marinette Pichon. And so if you'd like to contribute, you can send them an email at info@lasallesoccer.com. I'm sure you can also pick up tickets at the event if you'd like to go to the event and watch guys like Patrice Bernier play a game of soccer, Ali Gerba play a game of soccer, Marinette Pichon play a game of soccer. I've been told that James Pantemis is going to be on hand as well. I'm sure there's going to be other names that are going to be added to the group. And yes, I'm going to be there too. I'm sure you're not going to pay to watch me, but I will tell you this, that after the game, there's going to be a meet and greet, and everyone that's going to be there is going to be more than happy to meet with you, talk with you, take some pictures with you, and it's supporting a great cause. And that's one of the things I love about Energy Transportation Group. I love La Bête TB. They're brewed in Quebec. That's a reason to love them. They're a winner of a dozen international awards. They offer quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. La Bête TB, embrace your true nature. And I love Playground, also a partner and a sponsor. And I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen at Playground on Saturday night. I'm going to do that. Well, we'll do it right now. Why not? I'm going to be there with a live pregame podcast. So it's a busy day for me on Saturday, of course. I will be there. The Sick team will be there live at Playground for their grand opening gala. They have revamped their casino. They have renovated their casino. They've had a couple of restaurants in the casino. One of them is called the Drunken Dragon, and the other one is called Etc. Check them out on Instagram. Start following them. Start following Playground YUL as well to check out the casino. But to give you the best idea of what it looks like, and there's a little picture right there, what you're going to have to do is show up, be there on Saturday. It's an opportunity for all of us, you, the Sick Army, the Sick community, to go there, be able to finally put a face to a name. We'll be able to shake hands, a little hug, and maybe even a kiss. Who knows if you're nice. I look forward to seeing you all on Saturday night. We're going to have a special edition pregame show at 6 p.m. I'm going to stick around to, who knows, maybe midnight, at least 11 o'clock. I'll tell you that right now because I want to play the slots myself. And there's going to be some slots you can play. There's going to be some poker you can play. There's going to be a bite to eat that you can go and have if you'd like to. And there's going to be a lot of mingling that's going to take place as well. It's going to be a meet and greet. We're going to have a lot of fun. The game will be on in the background. You'll always know what the score is. You'll probably be able to take a look every now and then. But there's going to be such great conversation going on. I don't know how much you're going to watch of the Canadiens and the Islanders, but the Canadiens are playing the Islanders on Saturday night. So meet us at Playground Saturday night. We've been talking about a meet and greet for quite some time, going back to the summer. It's finally going to happen. Here's your opportunity. It's still relatively nice outside, so the weather's not going to be an excuse not to get out. You have no excuse. It's a Saturday night. Most of you are not working. I should be there. The Sick team, we should be there at around 5:30 p.m. as we get ready for our 6 p.m. special edition live pregame show that's going to take place from Playground. We look forward to seeing you there. Without further ado, I talked about these gentlemen. I'm going to bring them in right now from TVA Sport, Marc-Andre Perreault and Nicolas Cloutier. Messieurs, comment allez-vous?
Hey guys.
How are you?
Tony, well, you look great, but can you hide those beers, please?
Thank you.
Making me thirsty.
Yeah, these were supposed to go to you, by the way. I've
They're mine.
told you on more than one occasion that I had a 12-pack for you. I got to get a 12-pack for Nicolas Cloutier too. Not a problem. Not a problem. I'm well connected there at the Geloso Beverage Group. I can tell you that right now.
All right.
Well, next time I do see you at G6, send some my way.
Yeah, guys, we have so much to talk about. Earlier today, Martin St. Louis was asked if it's time to sit Josh Anderson, who has one goal to show on the season after 29 games. We know how it happened. It was an empty net goal that took place from 180 feet away. Yeah. And he said, no, now is not the time for this, and that Josh doesn't need this. I think it's a fair question, guys. I think it's a very, very fair question. Marc-Andre, you start.
It's a fair question, obviously, because his production is it's pretty much dead. You said 5 points, 29 games. Just to give you an idea, Raphaël Harvey-Pinard, 4 points, 13 games. So there's a big gap. But the point is, Josh Anderson is not playing bad hockey. And I've seen him since he's in Montreal. He was driving me nuts because you never knew what to expect. Sometimes he was running around, hitting everybody, and sometimes you're just wondering if he was playing. But this year, it's not the case. He is playing, I think he's playing good hockey. It just doesn't go in. So when Martin St. Louis says, I'm not going to give up on him, I totally agree. Maybe we saw his power play minutes go down, went from first unit to second unit, and some games he was not on the power play. That I agree, because you can play the best hockey of your life. At some point, you have to put points on the board. But Josh Anderson is not playing bad hockey right now. So I totally agree with Marty St. Louis on that.
Nicolas?
Well, what I'm going to say, Tony, is what would it accomplish, though? Because you're going to be stuck with that contract anyway. And, well, its trade value is down as it is. I mean, last year you could have gotten like a first rounder and a prospect for him, which would have been an amazing package.
I wanted to trade him last year. I went on record. And I said, now's the time. It's going to get worse.
You look good right now.
Thank you.
He always looks good, though. I mean, always
that's a fact. But this type of player, like a lot of GM are, desperately looking for them. So
yeah, he's a unicorn. So of course the GMs are enamored about Josh Anderson, but what would it accomplish if you sit him down in the rafters? Because his trade value is not going to go up. His confidence is not going to go up. I mean, at this point, he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing wrong and what he's doing right. Some things you just can't explain. Sometimes, hockey is a game of randomness at times, and sometimes you just don't know why the puck doesn't go in the net, and that's kind of what's happening with Josh Anderson right now. He's always been kind of streaky as a goal scorer, and like Marc-Andre said, I don't think it's a function of effort right now.
No,
It's just
not at all.
they're just not going in. So you're stuck with that contract anyway. He's going to be a part of the team moving forward. Or if you do want to trade him, you got to preserve his trade value. So would it accomplish anything sitting him down? No, nothing whatsoever. Beside, sending a message. But what kind of message would it send?
Well, he's been hitting post crossbars, missing empty nets, obviously, but he's driving the nets. He's hitting. He's using his speed to go over the Ds. So again, the effort is there, and that's the main difference between, let's say, Anderson and Joel Armia. That's why Armia was sent down, and Josh Anderson is not gonna miss a game. That's the biggest difference. But again, he is playing good hockey, and that's probably more even frustrating for him.
Yeah, and I do think it's hard for Josh Anderson to find kind of balance in his play, because every time we see him in the playoffs, he looks like a horse out there because he can go all out. It's the playoffs. You go all out. You don't ask yourself the question. But regular season, you have 82 games, tough schedule. You can't play like Josh Anderson plays in the playoffs every single game. So it's hard for him to find kind of that middle ground and find his identity as a player in an 82-game schedule.
And you remember when Marty St. Louis came in, I'm not sure if he pointed exactly Gallagher and Josh Anderson, but basically he was saying that they're gonna have to change their game because there's so much, they're south to north, and they have to change a little bit. And I think both adjusted pretty well, but again, you have to, put the puck in the net sometimes.
Yes, I think you guys are onto something, because if Josh Anderson was either taking the spot of a young player who deserves to play and he's not getting in, I think we can really make a case that, okay, maybe it's time to put him in the stands for a game or two. No, that's number one. Number two, if Josh Anderson, if the Canadiens were really legitimately trying to get into the playoffs here and Josh Anderson's hurting their chances to win, you can make a case for it. But right now, it's kind of like status quo. They're in a rebuild. They're more competitive, I think, than they were a year ago. The amount of games they've had into overtime, I think, can support that stat, but there are other stats that might not support it, which we're going to get into, because our buddy Michel Terrien contributed to an article in the Journal de Montréal, which has a lot of people talking in La Belle Province, basically saying, let's say the real things here. The Montreal Canadiens have not improved, but I think they have been in tighter hockey games. And so, look, I agree with you guys whatsoever. Unfortunately for Josh, his confidence is rock bottom right now.
Yeah.
Everyone was hoping and crossing their fingers when he scored that empty net goal that the weight of the world had just come off his shoulders and he would have. But unfortunately for him, he continues to be snake bitten.
Your point is good, saying that it's still a process. But let's not forget, Anderson is only 29 years of age. It's not as if he was 33, 34. You could see that he was slowing down. That's not the case. So he might probably be part of the success of this team in 2-3 years if he keeps on playing like that. But that being said,
I doubt it.
Well, again, as Nick says, what's his value right now? And you need big guys like that, veteran. You saw when he fought against who, I can't remember, and you could feel that he's loved by this group. He's a good hockey player. So again, but what I wanted to say is, and very respectfully, I'm going to disagree with Michel Terrien. It might be slower than we all thought, the process, and you know what, after 10-15 games, I probably would have said that I agree with Michel Terrien. But lately, with all the injuries and everything, the goalie situation, I saw yesterday and I saw a few games earlier that there's improvement, but this team will not make the playoff. At best, it's playoff contenders. They're not going to make it. But they're far from being contenders. But this team is improving, and you can see it. So I respectfully, I disagree with Mike on that.
Well, just to bounce off of that, I will say though, yes, they've been playing tighter games, but you might say they're improving in some aspects, but some other trends are alarming in my view.
Of course.
I mean, wins by more than one goal. Wins by more than one goal. You have Buffalo, October 23, Columbus, and you have Seattle. So that's 3 games. 3 games the Habs have won by more than one goal this season. I mean, that's not a lot. We can all agree on that. And
It's not.
All the one goals game, all the one goals win, there's only one in regulation, which is against Anaheim. So at some point, the forwards will have to score. But I agree with you guys that the picture is kind of murky right now because there's so many injuries, so many key players are out. So how can you know if they regress or they improve? I mean, this is not the actual team on the ice right now. So it's really hard to say if they regress or they improved or anything. But the thing is, none of the youngsters have taken a huge step in this lineup. I mean, you look at Cole Caulfield; he didn't take the next step. I mean,
Incorrect.
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 Okay.
Caden Goulet's taken a big step.
Well, lately Goulet has not been dominating. I mean,
Slavkovsky does, but I agree with you, Nick, on that. I mean,
yeah,
Justin
there has been some nice things with Slavkovsky, but let's not forget, guys, he's the first overall, and points are going to have to come by at some point.
He's 19.
I'm all for saying he's playing better hockey. But at some point, I mean, he can play better hockey for 82 games and end up with 10 points. Like, what are we going to say?
We're on to a great conversation here, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. As a matter of fact, I did some homework earlier today, and I'm going to bring. By the way, Mapper, Jonah Gadjevich of the Florida Panthers back on November 30th is the answer to your trivia question. That's the guy that Josh Anderson fought. Okay, but now, okay. So let's take a look at this, and for once, I'm going to try and be rational because I know it doesn't happen very often with me because I'm pretty emotional. I think Caden Goulet, my opinion, has taken one step forward this season, thus far after 29 games.
Quietly, yes.
At the start of the season, I would have said yes. Lately, more or less.
Perfect. So, but let's look at it globally after 29 games because everyone can have 3 bad games, okay?
Yeah, fair enough.
After 29 games, is Caden Goulet on par with what he was a year ago, or do you think he's taken a step forward?
Well, it's last game. Sidney Crosby showed him, how it works in the NHL last night. But
and Quinton Byfield showed him a couple of weeks ago. I get it. Yeah,
but
one was drafted first, and the other one was drafted second.
Exactly, but let's not forget. Same thing that I said with Slavkovsky being 19 years of age. Goulet is 21. It is so young. And there's a lot of things to learn. It's not as if he was like a Cale Makar or Quinn, like, he puts point on the board and we're like just focus on the points. But subtilement,
yes,
you can tell that his game is improving, but there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
but
it's been
tell
subtle.
Me about it. Tell me
Justin Barron hasn't improved from where he was a year ago.
He did big time.
I believe so. Okay.
Yeah.
If I would have told you last year at this time that this was going to be Jaden Struble right now, would you have believed me?
If what?
If 1 year ago at this time I would have told you Jaden Struble is going to be with the Montreal Canadiens 29 games into the season, and this is the way he's going to play.
Obviously not. But
he's improved.
Injuries is a factor, so let's be careful here.
You're right, but he's still doing the job. Samuel Montembeault is a young. He's not relatively, he's not old. I understand. He's mid-20s, okay, but Montembeault has improved from where he was a year ago, as good as he was last year because he was good.
You're right.
Okay?
You're right.
Slavkovsky, we talked about. Slavkovsky's improved, okay? Maybe we're not seeing it as much in points, but Slavkovsky's not getting tagged anymore. Slavkovsky's head is up a lot more. Yeah. Slavkovsky's taking a lot more information. Slavkovsky's going to the net. Slavkovsky's being a better playmaker. Slavkovsky's playing with confidence. And Slavkovsky, by the way, in the time that he's been united with Suzuki and Caulfield, has been the best one on the line, more so than the other 2 guys.
Sure, Tony, but we're talking about marginal improvements here. Like, no youngster has taken this team and taken the reins and taken off. I mean, you're talking about Justin Barron. Like, of course, he's playing a little better than last year, but he hasn't popped off. Like, nobody is really like popped off and like.
And he's not a top 3, and he won't be. So that's a
Sure, but Caulfield could have. I mean, we had expectations for him.
Yes.
Yeah, Slavkovsky could have.
I agree with you, Nick, on that. We're not talking about the big guns here. Like, have you seen improvement from Suzuki and Caulfield? To me, that's pretty much the only question that's relevant, but the most important one.
Mhm.
And
All right,
the answer
so-
is no.
Okay,
No.
so let me ask you this. How much of a drop, in your opinion, has there been for Suzuki? Who earlier today, Marty St. Louis said he has to get his nose a lot more in the traffic.
I don't know about Suzuki. He's a good kid. He's a good hockey player. Sometimes, if you really analyzing his play, you're gonna see good things that doesn't necessarily end up in goals or assists.
Mhm.
But this year, too many games, I just don't see him at all. Like, almost wondering, is he playing? That's not a number one centerman.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying he's playing bad, but you just don't see him. And it's fine to do a nice play by the board to get the puck, or get on a one-on-one battle. But at some point, I have to see you. I
have something on Nick. Nick,
Well-
how much of a drop off do you think it's been for Suzuki?
Well, let's say 15 or 20%. But the thing is, the things we've been seeing lately confirm to me that maybe we have to be more realistic about his ceiling. It's more about that for me. The conclusion I'm getting to is not, how much has he dropped off, is who is Nick Suzuki? And maybe we're learning right now that he's a very good player, but not a franchise centerman, maybe not even a number one centerman, and that's totally fine. I mean,
Is it
it's
something
still a
you
good
just
trade
learned?
by Marc Bergevin at the times?
It's not something you just learn, Nick. I mean, it's all about expectations. You're right on that. But who expected Nick Suzuki to be a number one star centerman?
I do think some fans expected that.
And I'm being very I don't want to trash talk against Suzuki. I really like the kid. He's a really good hockey player, but is he a number one centerman for a Stanley Cup contender team? The answer is no, and that's not bashing him. It's just it's hard to be a number one centerman star in the NHL. There's not a lot of them. So
well, a lot of people that saw him go from the Owen Sound attack, where, by the way, he had a season of 100 points, and then make his way to the Guelph Storm and then play the way he did
at the
in the
Memorial Cup,
playoffs, in the
great.
Memorial Cup and all that. Listen, he, that year,
he's very good.
He had 42 points in the playoffs.
He
had 42 points in the playoffs in 24 games. So, look, Craig Button joined me last night, and I asked him the question. I said, is Nick Suzuki a number one centerman on a cup winger? And in his opinion, it's all about who you're surrounded with. And he said, well, and we talked about, take a look at Los Angeles centermen, take a look at Tampa Bay centermen, take a look at the centerman that Toronto had a year ago when Ryan O'Reilly was still there.
Yeah.
There are other teams. If take a look at Vegas last year when they won the Stanley Cup, and even this year, right? Eichel, Stevenson.
Can I ask you a question, Tony?
Roy and who am I missing now? William Karlsson, right?
Let's say the age factor is not for that question, but who's the best, Suzuki or Dano?
You went there.
I mean, who? Like, seriously?
I think Dano's a better 200-foot player. I think Suzuki's a better offensive player.
Better offensive player. Okay.
I think you need both of them on your team, if I'm being fair.
But where's Dano in LA?
He's on the second line behind Kopitar.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
no. Listen, I hear what you. But once again, they have three centermen like Pierre-Luc Dubois. They have Kopitar. They have Dano. They have Pierre-Luc Dubois, and they have Trevor Lewis. They got four pretty deep centermen. So you made a great point. I asked Craig Button as well yesterday. A lot of people think Kirby Dach's ceiling is higher than that of Nick Suzuki's. To that, you say what?
I agree. I agree.
Nick, what do you say?
Size and everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dak is more of that X factor to him. I mean, I'm not even saying you cannot win a cup with Suzuki as your first line center. I mean, the Blues won one with O'Reilly. I'm not even saying Suzuki is O'Reilly. I mean, you can win a cup with Suzuki as your first line center. I'm just saying I don't think he's the top dog on your team. I don't think he's the X factor guy. Maybe Dak has that. Maybe he has that kind of that extra factor, that extra edge to his game.
Craig dismissed it right away. He said at no point did he ever think that Kirby Dach was a better centerman than Nick Suzuki, and he says no, I don't believe it. No, so we're gonna keep our eyes on it because, like Marc-Andre said, he's a big boy. Yep. Kirby Dach, we've seen some flashes where he's had some dominant shifts where we're like, oh my God, if one day this guy's able to put this all together and stay healthy, he could be something to deal with. So here's some of the homework that I did earlier today. Nicolas Cloutier, as a guy who does a lot of homework himself, you're really going to appreciate this. But before we do, once again, Journal de Montréal, let's bring it up, starting with the front page. We have it. We do. On va se dire les vraies choses. Le Canadien regresse. Let's say the real things. The Canadiens are regressing. An article by Michel Terrien. Let's go into it again. Normalement, tes meilleurs éléments doivent être tes meilleurs joueurs sur la glace, mais en ce moment, les meilleurs joueurs se comportent comme des joueurs ordinaires, particulièrement des attaquants. Ils sont même bons derniers dans la LNH pour le nombre de buts marqués. C'est une statistique révélatrice et inquiétante. Normally, your best players, your best elements have to be your best players on the ice. But right now, their best players are playing like ordinary players, especially the forwards. They're also last in the National Hockey League for goals scored. It's a stat that says a lot. Guys, I didn't know that they were last for goals scored in the National Hockey League. Am I learning something here or what?
The forwards are.
The forwards.
The D-men are scoring all the goals, Tony.
Correct. Yes. I think
you've seen the games.
Yeah, 38% of the goals with 23 goals. Second in the National Hockey League, guys, behind the Colorado Avalanche, who have scored 24 goals. Okay. Let's continue with the article. Ne me sortez pas l'excuse des blessés. Don't come out with the excuse of injuries. I don't want to hear anything about it. Je comprendrais de voir une telle régression si les meilleurs joueurs étaient à l'infirmerie. I would understand a drop in production if your best players were the ones that were out with injury. Si Nick Suzuki et Cole Caulfield étaient blessés, ça changerait tout, mais ils sont en santé. Et malgré tout, ils ne produisent et ne progressent pas. If Suzuki and Caulfield were hurt, I'd understand it. It could change everything, but they're healthy. And despite the fact they're being healthy, they're not producing and they're not progressing. I think there's more.
Yeah.
These are some solid opinions, guys. I love
it. I do disagree a lot, though. But
no, but it's okay to disagree, but it gives us stuff to talk about. God bless you, Michelle. I love you, man.
Oh, yeah.
You can't argue with the facts. You can't argue with facts. That's
Il faut
well, with other facts, you can, maybe.
Okay, we're going to try and get to those other facts. Il faut arrêter de se mettre la tête dans le sable. We have to stop putting our head in the sand. Il est maintenant temps de se dire les vraies choses. Le Canadien regresse. The Canadiens are regressing. Le rôle de tous les membres de l'organisation de faire progresser les joueurs, ce n'est pas le cas présentement. He gets back to, and then he says, this is interesting. Si l'équipe progressait davantage, if the team was progressing, il y aurait plus d'engouement de la part des partisans. The fans would be more into it, et moins de bancs vides au Centre Bell, and less empty seats inside the Bell Center. Let's not forget, he says, the Canadiens are not just another team because of their past history, their glorious history, and the unconditional love from their fans. They're held to a different, regard. So, Nick, you said when Marc-Andre said you can't argue with facts, you said, well, you can argue with other facts.
Yeah.
Give me your other facts.
Well, Michel is saying that the injuries don't matter. Well, that's false because it changes kind of all the matchups. I mean, if Kirby Dach is playing, if Alex Newhook is playing, I mean, the other teams, when they do their pre-scout, Tony, they have only two forwards to worry about, and that's Caulfield and Suzuki. That's it. That's the homework. Well, it changes everything if you have Dak in the lineup, if you have Newhook in the lineup. It takes pressure off those two guys. Right now, like the burden of scoring goals is solely on Suzuki and Caulfield. And that's kind of the problem. I mean, are they playing good hockey right now? No, they're not. But the injuries do change the outlook of things. It would be dishonest to say it doesn't change anything.
You, my friend, are on fire. Look at you. The fire is coming out in the podcast studio right here. And
But I do love Michel, though. I love him.
Damn you, Nicolas Cloutier, for stealing my thunder today, because that was the point I was going to drive home. I don't know what to say anymore. Podcast is over. Good night. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night. Sick podcast. Bye-bye. No, okay. Let me bring up, I told you I did some homework, so here we go. Nick, you're going to appreciate this because you like to formulate a lot of stats. All right. So I did some homework. Let's bring it up. Last season versus this season. What do you think of that, guys? Huh? I have to tell you, I wrote it down in a text message, and Juliana at Master Control is the one responsible for this beautiful graphic here, okay? Last season, guys, Suzuki, 0.8 points per game. His average this season is 0.79. There's no drop-off, guys. It's relatively the same. And the players I put up here, guys, I put up the two goalies, and I put up some core players on this team. Okay. Michael Matheson last season, 0.71 points per game. This season, 0.69. So you see that Suzuki dropped like by the thinnest of margins. Matheson as well. But now let's dig a little bit deeper. Okay. Monahan last year was hurt after game 25. 17 points in 25 games. This year, 17 and 29. He too dropped a little bit from 0.68 points per season, points per game, pardon me, to 0.59. There's been a drop. So last year, Dvorak had 0.44 points per game, okay? 0.44 for Dvorak and 0.26 points per game for Dvorak this season. Dvorak went down. Josh Anderson went down, okay? But once again, this is their points per game throughout an entire season, and we're comparing it to what they're on pace for this season. You got it?
Yep.
The big difference, guys, is what we said at the beginning of the show, and the stats support it. It's a huge drop-off for Josh Anderson, who, guys, is on pace for 0.03 goals per game. Like that's what he's averaging. He's averaging 0.03 goals per game. Cole Caulfield is averaging 0.24 goals per game. Last year, Cole Caulfield averaged
he was on pace for 47, so
5.7 goals per game. I mean, that's the difference.
When I was talking about facts with Michel Terrien's article, I mean, facts are that Caulfield and Suzuki are not improving. Facts is the forwards are not scoring. But it's also a fact, and I agree with Nick on that. I mean, injuries, it is a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's, you hear players, you hear coaches. It's like a cliche, or it's something that, you always say because you don't want to look bad and you want, but it is a fact. Injuries, especially when it's Kirby Dach and Newhook. Nick said it. And let's not forget that David Savard was injured. So that's big time matchup problem when David Savard is not on the lineup. So it is a fact, but at some point, I mean, you have to figure it out. And for top players, you have to take it on your shoulders and play better hockey.
We showed that Dvorak went down a little bit. Everyone went down a little bit. Suzuki went down a little bit. Matheson went down a little bit. Monahan went down a little bit. Dvorak went down a little bit more. Josh Anderson went down a lot. Cole Caulfield went down a lot. That's what it is. Nick touched on something very important when he touched on matchups. Let's bring up the injuries, okay? Last year, after 29 games, if we can bring up the injury chart, last year after 29 games, Drouin missed 16 games. Hoffman missed 10. Monahan missed 4. notable injuries this season because there's been more than this, guys. Okay, I didn't put Raphael Harvey-Pinard in there because he wasn't with the Canadiens at the beginning of the season last year. But Kirby Dach's missed 27 games, guys. David Savard's missed 22. Dvorak missed 12. Newhook missed 6. And Goulet missed 4. Guys, the injuries this season have impacted the team a lot more than the injuries last season. I mean,
they changed the medical staff. So what are you gonna do?
That's what's frustrating. It's just more of the same. There's no regression for me. There's no upgrade for me. It's just more of the same compared to last year. I mean, we're seeing the same patterns repeat themselves over and over. And I mean, we can't really blame the Canadiens. I mean, they took it seriously by revamping their medical staff. So what does Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon do now? I mean, they can just pray good luck at this point.
Yeah. So I look at this. So individually, so if that article would have said, and by the way, and the article does say a lot of that, right? A big emphasis in the article by Michel is that you weigh your team's success by your best players, and the Canadiens' best players have regressed.
Exactly.
That is not. That's pretty factual. Like Marc-Andre said, statistically factual. Suzuki's dropped, Caulfield's dropped, Monahan's dropped. You know, those are the Canadiens' best players. They've dropped. It's factual. I think what you said is very important. If Dach is there, Caulfield doesn't have to go up against the number one line all the time. Caulfield doesn't have to go up against the number one duo. Caulfield won't be getting all the attention that he's getting right now. I mean, everyone knows that they're passing the puck to Cole Caulfield, and everyone knows that Caulfield's firing that puck more than anyone else in the team. They're very predictable, and very easy to defend. There was a depth issue before the injuries. Imagine now with the injuries.
And having Dach first, he scores points, and he takes a spot on the power play of someone who doesn't belong on the power play. So it's important. But I was kind of surprised to read that article from Michel, because knowing Mike, and you know him too,
he's very conservative.
And the last thing he wants to be is like in French we say like the mother-in-law. L'ex-belle-mère, and criticizing after he's gone. And that's so when Michel says, that,
well, he feels it. That's what he believes, of course.
Like deeply. So to me, I don't agree with everything he says, but it tells me that there's something wrong right now. So
I can't disagree with the statement that the top players of the Canadiens are in the top players right now. I mean, there's nothing to disagree with here. My main point was about him saying the injuries don't matter. I mean, it's not true that they don't entirely matter. And Dach is the biggest piece. I mean, I think we've been underestimating how important Dach was to this team, maybe. He doesn't just score points. I mean, he wins puck battles. And I would say Dach at the biggest, in his bigger moments, like at the height of his game, I mean, he might be the best player in the Canadiens when he's really at the height of his game. That's why I give him the hedge. Compared to Suzuki, because when Suzuki is at the height of his game, he's a pretty good player, but Dach is a dominant player when he plays at his best.
More flashy, more.
But there's a lot of players that aren't able to put it together. I mean, look at Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson's the same guy who scored 27 goals when he was in Columbus, and he's the same guy that in preseason he was.
But Dach is way more talented, and
of course, yes,
he's a top 3 pick. So that's,
No, you're not a top 3 pick by fluke usually. No, there's no doubt that he has tools.
Exactly.
What do you make of Marty St. Louis though saying that Suzuki's got to go more into the traffic?
Well, I mean, true. it's just true, but. That question could have been asked about pretty much. It's still accurate, and it's a problem. I don't see a desperate team, but it's hard to be desperate when you're losing a hand of it. It's hard. It's not everybody is David Savard, who even if they're dead last game, 5 seconds left, he's gonna put his body in front of a slap shot. But so to me, it's another thing. They have to be more desperate to win hockey games. So that's my opinion on that.
I think Nick just fractured his finger.
Oh yeah, just a small cut. They took care of it yesterday.
Just a small cut. Okay, it's a good thing. I thought for a second there he was going to be out of the lineup too. I was starting to get worried.
No, I'm good.
Hey,
I'm
on
good.
the
Thanks for worrying, Joe.
on the TVA Sport disabled list because out with an injury.
No, we're all top shape.
Who's the next man up if you're out injured?
The roster isn't that deep right now, Tony.
Can't replace Nick.
Marc-Andre is going to have to do a little bit of overtime. A little bit.
I've done enough.
Yeah. You did a piece, Nick. You did a piece on Lane Hutson's brother.
Guys, I'm gonna have to say goodbye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Here. And,
have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
I was aware. I didn't know. Okay, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon, my man. All right, there you have it. Yeah, good. No, it's perfect timing because you could talk to me about your piece. What did you do?
Well, I talked to Cole Hudson, who is the brother of Lane Hudson, and Cole Hudson has a chip on his shoulder, Tony, because the old Hudson family took it personally when Lane dropped at the draft in Montreal in 2022. We remember Lane had these elite stats with the American program in 2022, and he dropped 62nd at the draft. And we can agree, Tony, that lesser players have been taken before him. Mm-hmm. And the whole family took it personally and found it very unfortunate. So Cole Hudson right now, Cole Hudson, by the way, who is an offensive defenseman also, and who shattered the points record for a U17 player with the American program last year, is trending to be drafted in the first round. And that's his objective because he wants to stick it to the scouts that think a player like Lane Hudson, an offensive defenseman like Lane Hudson doesn't deserve to be drafted in the first round. So he has something to prove this year. And I find his profile very interesting. He's very much like Lane, but he's a bit bigger. He's already 5'10", and he has some room to grow. He describes himself as a more physical Lane Hudson, and his coach with the national program, Nick Ford, told me he's a bit more of a natural player than Lane.
A little bit more of a natural player than Lane, meaning
because
what
Lane has such a high work ethic, like he has a very high motor, and even Cole would tell you that Lane has a better work ethic than him because his work ethic is just off the charts, you know.
Yeah.
So to Cole, it does seem to be a little bit more natural, but they all kind of arrive at the same result because they play so much of the same way on the ice. That's
the report we get from Lane Hudson, right? First one on the ice, last one off the ice.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is, you know, coaches love to hear stuff like that, and so do general managers.
Absolutely. I mean, you have it all. And you know what, Tony? I asked Cole because he never played with Lane Hudson. I mean, they're like a couple of years apart, or they were never really on the same team, but they would have the opportunity to play on the same team next year with Boston University. But so I asked Cole, like, do you think you have any chance of playing with your brother next year? And he's like, no chance. I mean, he's been incredible these last few years, and he's just going to play with the Canadiens at the end of the year.
You have been doing a lot of reporting and a lot of digging on a lot of Montreal Canadiens prospects. I know that Cole Hudson, of course, has not been drafted yet, and he's 2024 eligible. Who knows? Maybe one day he will be reunited with his brother. But of the players who were drafted from the Montreal Canadiens outside of Lane Hudson, who can you talk to us about that you've talked to lately or done some work on?
Talk lately. Lately I've been covering the Rocket a lot. As far as the prospects, I'm talking to prospects as for the upcoming draft in the last few weeks. So I talked to the son of Saku Koivu, and I'm gonna be doing probably an article on Florian Jacquet very soon. Florian Jacquet, who was discovered by Matt Turek. This is an interesting story. Okay, Matt Turek is a former Ontario scout for the Habs, and he's now the GM of the Brantford Bulldogs. And he has known the Jacquets since they're like 10 years old. And he told me point blank, and this is going to be in an upcoming article, that Florian, in his opinion, is just scratching the surface with his potential. And Florian, at a very young age, was actually a smaller skill player. That's why his profile is so interesting, and that's why Nick Bobrov called him a unicorn, is because you have this former smaller scale players that is now adjusting to this bigger frame. And when he figures it out, you might have something very interesting come out of this. And there are not a lot of players with that package, maybe of skill and size in the National Hockey League nowadays. And Florent Jacquet, that's why he was such an interesting bet in the first round by the Canadiens, even though the stats would tell you maybe that was a reach. I mean, there are people within the Montreal Canadiens that are very excited about Florent Jacquet. I can tell you that, and it's going to be really interesting to see his development in the next few years.
So, seeing as you have been spending some time covering the Laval Rocket, answer me this: what's happened with Joshua Roy in the last 3 or 4 weeks?
I mean, just growing pains, Tony. Nothing exceptional. Nothing like. I mean, I wasn't expecting Joshua Roy to light up the American Hockey League all year long, to be honest. Because, I mean, Roy is a very good prospect, but he's still not a perfect player in my mind. I mean, there were always some issues with his pace of play, with his skating, even though he has such an elite hockey brain. So there were going to be growing pains, and this calendar, it's tough for players that are adjusting to the pro level. So I don't have any issues with Joshua Roy's dip in his play as of late, and I think he is going to be playing a few games maybe with the Canadiens at the end of the year. But and there's a possibility that he also plays in the American Hockey League next year too. I always thought Roy would take a couple of years in the AHL before getting settled in the NHL to really find his groove, find his role. So no, I can't say I'm really alarmed nor surprised.
Mitchell Stevens was recalled by the Canadiens. What was it, just over a week ago? Emil Heineman was recalled by the Canadiens yesterday. Were those the two players to recall from Laval?
Well, one player that is interesting to me, Tony, is Brendan Gignac, because he doesn't have an NHL contract. But when I talked to Jean-François Hood, he told me that according to the numbers the Rocket have internally, he was by far the number one guy as far as the scoring chances. And by huge margin, like nobody was close. So this is a guy that has been playing very good hockey in the AHL this year, but doesn't have an NHL contract. So maybe something that gets taken care of sooner than later. But I'd like to see him get a shot and maybe just get a few games so the Canadiens can see what they have, you know.
Kent Hughes went on the eye test with Jimmy Murphy and Pierre Maguire a couple of days ago on the Sick Podcast Network. He talked about Jaden Struble. He said he gave Jaden a call. He said, Jaden, listen, we're calling you up. You deserve it. You worked real hard in the summer. You worked real hard in the season. You've been the most consistent defenseman down with the Laval Rocket. I don't think you're going to play, but I want you to see what is the life of a pro. And then he says shortly thereafter, Jordan Harris got called to go do imaging for his injury, and Harris has been out of the lineup. Struble's gone in, and he's never come out. If the Canadiens had to recall a defenseman today, who would that be that's been the most consistent defenseman following Struble's departure? Or his
honestly, I really don't know. I don't think there's any, like, I mean, it has been maybe Trudeau, but it's been a whirlwind for there's no really deserving candidate right now. That's what I'm going to say. I mean, they could call up Norlander. Would he deserve it? No.
Oh, so he hasn't been good, huh?
No, not really.
And Logan Mailloux? What's going on with his defensive game?
I mean, at this point, if you're going to call up Mailloux, I would just rather call like a veteran in the AHL, or like not mess with this development. I mean, what I've seen from Mailloux is that there are flashes of brilliance on the ice. The tools are there, but there are also too many mistakes on the ice, too many things that he cannot escape with at the pro level. So he's been a mixed bag, kind of, because you see the games and he's been noticeable. So I'll give him that. You notice him on the ice, but not always for the good reasons. But you see him. I mean, there's flashes of brilliance out there. He makes some great plays in the offensive zone. The tools are there. I just think he needs time to figure it out. He hasn't played a lot of hockey in the last few years. But give him a couple of years, and I think he'll make an impact at the NHL level.
Solid stuff, Nick. Very much appreciate taking the time. You joined me last year. You were awesome. I think it's the first time this season, is it not?
It is. I mean, it was so hard to get it working with my schedule, but I always have it come and talk to you, Tony.
Thank you very much. Nicolas,
thank you, bud.
TVA Sport. Follow him on Twitter. He's a real interesting follow. I'm going to tell you that right now. I want to thank Energy Transportation Group. I want to thank Labita TV, and I want to thank Playground. They're reminding you once again that we're going to be going live with a special edition pregame show on Saturday night starting at 6 p.m. live from Playground. We hope that we'll be able to see some of you so we can put a face to a name once again, and we can all get to know each other in person. That'll be pretty cool. It's going to be our opportunity to introduce you to Playground so you can go in, you can take a look at what it is. I'm sure you're going to love it, and I'm sure that you're going to end up going back. Looks like Stéphane from Quebec City is probably going to be joining us because he asked if he can wear his Los Angeles Kings jersey. You can wear whatever you want, my man. There's no problem at all. And we hope to see you at the Playground, along with La Belle Josée and all you other Montreal Canadiens fans and Sick Army and Sick community. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you liked it, like it, share with your friends, comment Sick, S-I-C-K, and give us a 5-star review on Apple if you can. It's our way of feeling the love. For Agnello, Sammy, and Juliana at Master Control, they're Cavallaro. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. La Vida.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.